We want to find a way today of conveying to you that as you stand in your physical body and you sift through the details of life as you knew you would, that you launch so many endless rockets of desire, and the universe expands and improves as a result of your exposure to life. It just gets better and better vibrationally. And the new generations that are born into this experience are born from this new leading edge place that you've carved out. But we want you to understand that you and every other species on the planet, better said, you and every other consciousness on the planet, and every particle of everything is consciousness. You are constantly asking for improvement, and the source energy part of you, the vibrational part of you, finds that improvement, finds it immediately, and from then on begins offering from that new vantage point. So that means that as you stand on your physical earth and you worry about global warming, you ask for your earth to maintain its balance. As you worry about earthquakes or volcanoes, you ask for a stable environment. As you worry about economic upheaval, you ask for more stability. And what we want to convey to you is that that asking really, really matters. And that asking wouldn't be as extreme or intense or as focused as it is if you were not exposed to the life that caused you to focus it. Now, the reason it really matters is because it is from that vibrational reality that all reality that expands or extends from generation to generation to generation. In other words, the longevity that you know as life on this planet extends purely. This is new. We have not said this to anyone ever, so you're going to enjoy the resonance that you feel as you hear it. As this vibrational reality that we are describing comes to be, this earth experience that extends from generation to generation to generation to generation comes only out of that vortex of creation. In other words, when we say to you, you can be sure that well-being is the order of this universe, that's how we know that to be true. Because there's only the pure, undiluted, non-resistant thought of well-being that is the basis of all this new creation. Now, the reason that there is some sort of music playing. Now, the reason that we're making this important distinction for you is because we want you to understand that as you stand in your physical body, you get to think about whatever you choose to think about. And law of attraction is responding to the active vibration. So, for example, Jerry and Esther were driving the monster bus. They were coming across the beautiful desert. And they were talking about life. They were talking about how busy they are. They were talking about what a wonderful life they live. They were talking about how important it is for them to maintain balance in their life. And Esther was telling Jerry a story that one of her sisters told her not long ago about the poop to value ratio. She's always measuring the poop to value ratio. How much stress, strain, and energy am I offering for my results? And we have been teasing Esther about that because we don't think there should be any poop to value ratio. In other words, we don't think you should put up with the things that you put up with that keep you from living the joyful life that you want to live. So, but here's the reason that we're telling you this story. As Esther said to Jerry, the words barely out of her mouth, a fraction of a sentence, well, it's all about that poop to value ratio. The largest bird left a spot on the windshield as big as a pie. A big pie. Esther laughed so hard she nearly drove off the road. Because more and more she is understanding. This morning, Jerry was in the bathtub and Esther said to him as she's brushing her teeth and left the room, "Don't drown. Just plain. She's not said that to him ever. Not about the bathtub. And then she heard a big thunk, and he didn't realize that the bathtub was as curved as it was, and when he laid back into the water, he bumped his head and snorted water up his nose. And Esther can hear him coughing, and she came back in and said, I told you not to drown. And then they began laughing about it. Jerry said, you have very powerful thoughts, and I want you to stay away from me. And the reason that we're talking with you about this is because we want you to remember that you get what you think about, but you cannot do anything other than mess up your own experience. In other words, what you think about here in this physical realm, of course, law of attraction is responding to it. You get what you think about. But we want you to understand, we want you to get it, that there is this vibrational reality that is formed, that the larger part of you, the eternal part of you, the part of you that lives on and on and on, the part of you that is the next generation and the next, the part of you that is God force, the part of you that keeps this planet spinning in its orbit in perfect proximity to other planets, that part of you is the receiver and the holder of the best of life that you're synthesizing. In other words, we want you to hold in your mind the idea of this place marker that source energy is, that as you carve out the details of life experience, and you know what you don't want to be sick, you want to be well, and on and on and on. As you keep emanating those rockets of desires, source energy, the God force within you, inner being, whatever you're wanting to call that, holds that positive place marker. And law of attraction keeps responding to that powerful, positive place marker. Now, the reason that we're giving this to you is because we want to give you words that reassure you unequivocally of the well-being and the longevity of the eternalness of that which is you. We want you to understand that the well-being of that which you are living here on this planet is unequivocally assured. In other words, the well-being is, the well-being is, the well-being is. And the reason that we know that it is because we've seen what you put into the escrow, which is the basis from which all new creation is coming forth. You just don't need to worry about that. We're also giving it to you in this way because we want you to understand how it is that we can say to you, you get what you think about, and then we can also promise you that the well-being of your planet is assured. When you've got so many millions of people, there are billions of people on your planet, and billions of you are not worried about global warming. Billions of you are not beating the drum of anything very long. You're a fickle bunch, and that's really good. Even CNN can only give you a little while of any story before it has to move on to the next one. And that's a very good thing. Even though it distorts what it gives you dramatically and gives you far more reason for concern than you deserve in terms of the weight and balance, not the poop to value, the weight and balance of what's going on. We want you to understand that well-being is assured. It's in this vibrational reality, which is the basis of everything that's coming forth. So why are we talking to you? Well, you've summoned us, but what's this all about? What is this knowledge that we are helping you to remember or find resonance with? What's its value to you? Why is it of advantage for you to understand that you are the creator of your own reality? Why is it of advantage for you to recognize that there are two vibrational aspects of you going on in every moment that you are focused in this physical body? Why is it important for you to know that these two aspects exist and that there is an emotional bond between them that lets you know how aligned you are with what you have created and its furthest extension, or how resistant you are to it? Well, it's not important in the sense that the longevity of your planet is at stake, because it isn't. Well-being is assured. It's not important if you are thinking in terms of even your reemerging in the non-physical, and you're understanding who you are and fulfilling your reason for being. Because as you bang around in this physical life experience, you are becoming, and in what you call your death experience, we call it your croaking experience. We try to be disrespectful since there is no death. When you reemerge back into non-physical, you catch up with all that this life has added to who you are. In other words, you catch up with all that you are. So there's no big thing that is at risk if you, as this small cluster of people, or even mass consciousness, doesn't hear this, because the whole thing is so well established. You are source energy, and you are coming forward, and you are adding to the expansion of the universe because of being here in this physical body. And the larger part of you is expanding, and you will feel the utter satisfaction of all of that when you have your entrance or withdrawal from the physical back into the non-physical. You'll feel all of that satisfaction. The reason that we are visiting with you now is we don't think you should have to croak to find that satisfaction. We think you should be able to be here in this physical body and understand the wholeness of who you are. And we think that you are wise enough to tune yourself to the wholest part of who you are. We think that you should be able to be here in a physical body, explore the details, know what you don't want, know what you do want, and use your emotions to keep you tuned to the furthest expanded version of who you are. Because we know this for sure. When you don't feel good. So you can't hold your expansion back. It's a byproduct of life. You cannot hold your expansion back, but you can lazily or sloppily tune yourself out of alignment with that. And when you do, you feel crummy. When you do, you get sick. When you do, you don't like life. When you do, you feel fear, you feel hate, you feel anger. You feel all of those things that are just emotional indicators or physical manifestational indicators of thinking by default, really. Just thinking because it's in front of you. It'd be like sitting in front of your television and there's a program on and someone comes in and says, "What is it?" And you say, "I don't know, but it's really miserable." And they say, "Why don't you change the channel?" And you say, "What?" I never change the channel. I just come into the room and I sit down and I watch what's there. And then I comment on it. Just letting you know, this particular thing is really awful. We're not kidding. That's mostly what you do. You read the front page of the newspaper and you have a knee-jerk response to it. And you watch CNN and you have a knee-jerk response to it. And your kids call or your neighbors do something and you just look around and you respond. You just observe and respond and observe and respond and observe and respond. The good news is every time you observe and respond, you launch a rocket of improvement. But if you don't do something about then tuning yourself to the improvement, then what happens is your life gets away from you. That's why the longer people live in their bodies, the ornerier and the sicker they usually get. Because life kept causing them to expand, but they didn't go. They just kept watching the same channel. They just kept observing and commenting on what they were observing. So this Art of Allowing workshop, this is about the art of allowing what? The art of allowing me in my physical human body, with my physical mind, with my physical ability to focus, is about me using my ability to focus myself into alignment with the furthest that I have become. And that is where true satisfaction comes from. Moment to moment to moment satisfaction. Nothing is more delicious than to explore life and know what you don't want and know what you do want, and then recognize that you've expanded. You can tell because you feel uneasy. You've expanded to a new place, but you've got chronic habits of thought that aren't letting you go there. It's sort of like Jerry and Esther moving around in their monster bus, which they really need to be in good performing order. The sliding rooms need to work, otherwise they can't drive. And the engine needs to be in tune, otherwise they can't be certain that they'll get to where they want to be when they want to be there. And so there's just constant adjustment. There's just constant knowing what they don't want and knowing what they do want. But it's not easy sometimes to hold your mind in a positive expectation in the middle of something that doesn't give you much reason to feel positive.